I do not aim with my hand. He who aims with his hand has forgotten the face of his father. I aim with my eye. I do not shoot with my hand. He who shoots with his hand has forgotten the face of his father. I shoot with my mind. I do not shoot to kill with my gun. He who kills with his gun has forgotten the face of his father. I'd just like to start this video by giving a special thank you to my patrons. Thank you for allowing me to pursue my passion. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew, and if you cannot tell, we are here to talk a little bit of Dark Tower. But before we get into that, make sure you are liking and subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you can get regular updates for when I put out new content. Also, make sure you're checking the description box down below for the link to the Wizardly Duo Discord, as well as links to all my social media and information about my Patreon, where I do quarterly giveaways, weekly reading wrap-ups, and exclusive buddy reads. And that's it, guys. I started on the journey to the Dark Tower 14 years ago, and I didn't quite make it. But I am happy to say that that has now been rectified. So what is the Dark Tower? Is it fantasy? Is it a Western? That's kind of a hard question to answer, because it's such a mishmash. There is fantasy, there is horror, there is meta fiction here, there is sci-fi elements, and of course, there is Western elements as well. This is very much, there's multi-dimension, there are portals, there are robots, there is a whole lot that goes into the Dark Tower. But what is the Dark Tower? The Dark Tower is essentially the tale of Roland of Gilead, of the line of Eld, which I believe is kind of an allusion to he is descended from Arthur of Eld, or I believe King Arthur, and I could have that wrong. Now, Roland is a gunslinger, and basically he's kind of a knight here in his world, the world of Midworld, I believe is where Roland lives. And what is essentially happened is the world has since moved on. He is very much in a world in decline. It is sliding very much into the apocalypse or towards the end times, and he is on a quest to the Dark Tower, where all the beams that support the multiverse that has been established by Stephen King converge, and he is there trying to save basically the multiverse, and that is kind of his whole quest. Now, along this quest, he forms what is called a quartet, or just a group of individuals. We've got Eddie Dean, Susannah, Jake, and one of the best animal companions you are going to find in any genre, and that is Oi. Now, this is a very, very popular series, and it's also a very convoluted series, and so a lot of people have their favorites, and a lot of people say certain issues miss, or certain entries within the Dark Tower is just a wild miss for them, and I can kind of understand where they are coming from, because it is that mashup of so many genres. Some of the books lean more into another genre versus, others. So let's kind of turn it around, because I've got this nice motion picture box set that's got all the books, including Wind Through the Keyhole, which is Dark Tower 4.5, and we're just going to kind of non-spoiler talk about these, how I felt about them, what genres may fit into them. And also we've got these three books here. We've got Insomnia, we've got The Stand, and we've got Salem's Lot, which I think are all part of the Dark Tower experience. Now, of course, you don't have to read these in order to read this, but for instance, Salem's Lot will be very much spoiled by Wolves of Akala, Dark Tower number 5. It is basically a direct sequel to Salem's Lot. The Stand makes an appearance here in The Wastelands, and Insomnia is very much a Dark Tower book. I believe that slots right here as 6.5, because we have characters from Insomnia whose actions have a direct kind of effect or influence here on the final Dark Tower book. Now, Gunslinger, we've very much got a very nice Western tale here. This is where we meet Jake and we meet Roland, and they kind of start along their journey. Basically, we open up with the line, "The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed." One of the best opening lines of any series to this day. Now, I believe This came out in the late 70s is what I'm going to say. And basically this entire series spans about 30 years of Stephen King's life, where he took a massive break between Wastelands and Wizard and Glass. I think almost an 18-year break, because basically he got into a car accident and he thought he was never going to be able to finish his magnum opus, and so all of a sudden he started cranking out Dark Tower books, which is where things start to get a little bit weird here. Drawing of the Three is very much still a Western, however, it also kind of shifts into an urban fantasy setting. We've got a little bit of a portal fantasy situation going on here. Very good. One of my top Dark Tower books. I really enjoyed the Drawing of the Three. The Wastelands is more of a post-apocalyptic tale. Again, we get more of those portal fantasy elements, some multiverse crossover here with some of the books that I've got listed here. And then Wizard and Glass is very much a shift in the series where we kind of flash back and we cover a lot of backstory and history for Roland, our main character within the Dark Tower. This is very much a Western and horror element stories. Wizard and Glass is a lot of times people's favorites. For me personally, I didn't like it because a lot of the horror elements took certain elements and made them very strange and very weird. I will say there was a lot of strangeness built here within the Dark Tower, and if you are not ready for it, it can catch you way off guard. I will say the story elements are fantastic, as well as the characterizations. However, some of the things that people do within the story can be very off-putting. And I will say, if you are still here watching this video, there are a lot of trigger warnings within the Dark Tower, some of which are sexual in nature. So please keep that in mind, that this series does have those triggers. Then we kind of take a break, because basically we get to Win Through the Keyhole, which is Dark Tower 4.5. However, this was the last book released after Dark Tower. This came out very much after, and this is basically a kind of a double nested narrative. While Wizard and Glass was a nested narrative, we get a double nested narrative here within Wizard and Glass, because we get a double flashback where we flash back to characters who then flash back to other characters. This felt more like three novellas stitched together that kind of follows our Dark Tower characters. This one was also not one of my favorites. Now, I know people love Win Through the Keyhole who had been longtime readers of the Dark Tower, but if you're reading it kind of just all at once, this may not work super well for you. Then we get to Wolves of the Calla. Again, this is more fantasy. This is where you start to see a little bit of that sci-fi element. And we get a little bit of sci-fi here in Wasteland and Wizard and Glass as well. And as well as some, it's Wizard and Glass, we get some fantasy elements. But Wolves of the Calla, we get a little bit more sci-fi, Western kind of fantasy vibes here. A very solid tale. A lot of people don't like this because it slows way down and does some slice of life stuff, which King, for me personally, excels at. I really enjoyed Wolves of the Calla. Next up, we get to Song of Susannah. Now, this is where things start getting meta. And basically, there was a long wait between Wolves of the Calla and Song of Susannah as well. People waited for this. And so, when it kind of takes a shift into a little bit of a meta tale, which I'm not going to spoil what that meta tale is. However, it left a lot of legacy readers kind of dissatisfied. But if you're reading it through and you kind of like the weirdness that Stephen King has established within the Dark Tower already, I think this one is going to work for you fairly well. I really enjoyed it. And then we're going to stop and talk about Insomnia, because Insomnia is a fantastic not only multiverse book, because this is set within Derry, Maine, and there are a lot of great tales within the Dark Tower set in Derry, Maine. I believe this is set in the 90s in Derry, Maine, so it takes place after Stephen King's It, but it does kind of reference some events that happen within that fantastic book as well. But basically we follow Ralph. He's this aging man, and he has to go and stop an event in order to save the world. And those events directly reflect what happens here within the Dark Tower. We also kind of explore some of the Dark Tower, some of what Ka and Katet means. All of that kind of gets explored here within Insomnia. And then we kind of move on here to Stephen King's The Dark Tower, the final book that I have been waiting 14 years to complete. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm kind of lukewarm on The Dark Tower. And so essentially, basically, we get just everything. We get the sci-fi, we get the fantasy, we get the Western, we get the meta, we get all of that, and it just kind of pushes it at you. this is probably one of the weirdest entries and the longest within the Dark Tower. You're either going to love this entry or it's going to leave you kind of scratching your head. I will say, however, people say that they don't really like the ending of this book. I personally really enjoyed that last little section. It really worked for me, and it kind of enriched the first book for me in a very special and spectacular way. I didn't really enjoy the meta elements as much in the Dark Tower as I did in Song of Susannah. So take that what you will. This is all my non-spoiler thoughts. So overall, I really enjoyed my journey along the beam with Dark Tower and following this quartet and getting to know Eddie Dean and Susannah or Detta or however you want to refer to her, Roland, Oi. Basically, as these people come together, they are very much in opposition. They do not mesh well. They do not fit together. They are very much at odds. That they just don't quite fit. And then as the series progresses, they just kind of shift and lock together and create this great found family. They come to care for each other. They come to reinforce each other. It's great to see. And there's a lot of emotion tied up into these relationships that very much have to be forged in fire. And I just really, really enjoyed that experience. Overall, even if I didn't really love Wizard and Glass, Winds of the Keyhole, and the Dark Tower, everything else for me was pretty much a home run, especially Drawing of the Three. I love Drawing of the Three, Wastelands, Wolves of the Call, very good, and I also really enjoyed Song of Susannah. So please let me know in the comments down below what you thought of the Dark Tower. I am planning on doing a full spoiler discussion here soon with Joanna. Hopefully we can get that out and done. We have yet to invite certain people to do this discussion, but we are very much looking forward to it. From there, you can kind of get my full spoiler thoughts. Guys, I am so excited to talk Dark Tower with Joanna. So please let me know in the comments down below your thoughts on the Dark Tower. Where are you at in your journey along the beam? And who is your favorite quartet member? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, guys, till next time, peace out, stay magical, bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons.